Hello and welcome to Coffee with Dr. Carla. I'm Dr. Carla. Emmy is here with me today and we are so glad that you are here. Today we're going to talk about some mental health related issues and hopefully start to break down the stigma surrounding them. So I think the first time I was exposed to a sound bath was, or maybe I should say, the first time I was exposed to a sound bath, that's what it was called. I probably had exposure to it and no one ever called it that. But the one where I consciously knew that this thing that we went to was called a sound bath was probably in 2015. And I was away at a training and they offered the sound bath as like one of the things that were going on in the evening. And I remember being very curious about it, and some of the people I was with, hearing some of the things that they were saying to me, and I was like, oh, that's kind of okay, and then having my own experience that didn't necessarily match theirs, and I'm like, oh, okay, well, and then progressively understanding more and more about it. But right before we pressed record today, we were informed that there's somebody out on the planet who does not know what a sound bath is, and so I suspect there's many somebodies because it's not I think it's more common, but unless you run in that circle, it's not going to be common. So since you are, kind of the expert, you're the certified sound person, right? Share with us what makes a sound bath a sound bath.
Yeah, so I think we talked about it in the last video, but there are different kinds of sound baths. The ones that I I facilitate for the most part, I consider like sound healing, which is when you bring the intention, very specific intention into the room. Okay. And so how a sound bath works is typically like you come together either as a group, sometimes people do one-on-ones, and you set your intention and you just I always recommend laying down personally.
That's how I
I
agree. Or if you're really you got this really cool kind of recliner chair or a hammock chair, but the idea is comfortability, because if you have to sit up, that to me takes out all the...
It does, because, that's part of it, is being comfortable in your body, in this space, because a lot of times it's an unfamiliar space. Yeah. And it's very hard to fully embrace relaxation when you're I don't know where this place is. I mean, I think about when I stay at an unfamiliar hotel and I just don't sleep that night because I don't know it. Right. That's how the sound bath works, is you come into the space and you get as comfortable as possible. Typically, the sound baths I've been to and the ones I facilitate, usually you are guided through a mindfulness process. Okay. So it is...
So you don't have to guess what I'm supposed to... I'm not going to lay there and go, okay, am I supposed to be doing what's good? Right, yeah. Okay.
Yes, no. I think all of the sound baths I've been to, and all of the ones I facilitate, I tend to instruct, and it's I give actually a heads up beforehand, and it's this is how this process is going to work. I want you to be comfortable. I want you to feel safe, and able to be in this space and embrace this experience. Nice. So I always start off with 3 deep breaths in through the nose and out through the mouth. And then typically I do a grounding meditation where it's you slowly start to become aware of your body, releasing the tension, first of all, acknowledging the tension.
There isn't even tension. Yeah.
Yeah. Most people don't realize it, but our bodies hold things. They hold tension, they hold stress. Right. And so walking through the process of relaxing each part of your body is actually preparation for the sound bath, and being relaxed. And then typically when I do it, I have quartz crystal bowls. There are other ways you can do it, as we talked about in the last video. Yeah. Humming, voice like, I don't know if you know this, but like Gregorian chants
Yes.
are considered sound healing,
Yes,
sound
yes.
baths, because you think about the intention and the purpose and what they're trying to do. But there's voice, there are quartz crystal bowls, which is one of my favorite methods. There are chimes, there
Gongs,
are gongs, there are tingshas.
The rain sticks. Oh, my favorite is the ocean drum.
The ocean drum, regular drums.
Yep.
And it's very interesting how all of these different things react, actually, because each instrument typically has a purpose.
Right.
Like, I will intentionally play chimes if I feel like there is too much tension in the room, because they're known as like energy breakers. So they like that the sound and the vibration, it'll break up the energy in the room. Gongs, have you ever been to a gong bath?
I have. It's intense.
They're very intense. And a large reason behind that is actually because the most affordable gongs, at least in my research, are war gongs. So they are literally meant to activate your body to prepare for war. Like, that is kind of the point. Not all gongs, don't get me wrong. Right. It's not all of them. But a lot of people use war gongs, and they do it on purpose.
Okay.
To, like, dig up what's lurking.
Okay. All right. Good to know. Yeah.
Yeah. The quartz crystal bowls are typically, again, those actually correspond with notes. So, to me, not everybody uses the chakra system. Not everybody does. There are different ways to convey the energy transfer and like how your body works. But that's my preferred. So I use the quartz bowls that are like assigned a note, which are connected to a chakra.
Right.
And if I'm on a one-on-one with somebody, and we're working on a specific issue, I will lean towards the bowl that I think will help them.
Okay.
So sometimes, like, if there are issues around, like, financial stress, I will use the root bowl, because at that point my question is, like, how shaky is their foundation? Like, do they feel safe?
Do they have any stability? Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so seeing how they react to that, initially, typically the root bowl is also, it's a C. It's a C. It's the grounding note for most things.
Right.
So it's typically comfortable, but it's always interesting when it's not. So I will use different bowls depending on what's going on in their lives.
So you get us all to relax, whatever that looks like. You kind of give us a preview of what we can expect. Mm-hmm. We start off with some breathing, and then you start incorporating the sound and lead us through a guided meditation. And then what happens? Like, is this something? Okay, I'm going to tell you, the first sound bath that I ever went to, it lasted about 4 hours. Yeah. So, I know that's not what we typically do around here, but, what do you see as a kind of a typical length for a sound bath?
Yeah, usually I say it's between, like, 40 minutes and an hour.
Okay.
But it depends. They can go longer. It really depends on the facilitator or what you're trying to dig into or work with.
So let's say we do our time, and then we kind of start to come to a close. How do you end that time?
Yeah. So once I'm done playing, I am a huge believer that the biggest changes happen in the silence. And so I always give everyone a heads up. It's going to get quiet. It's normal. It's on purpose.
Right.
Like, I
didn't forget that I was playing, right? Yeah.
Right. I don't want you to be like, oh, something happened. No, I want you to process everything you just experienced. And then we do the deep breathing exercises, and we come back into our bodies with, like, more grounding work. But instead of typically, like, grounding inwards, we ground out. So, like, we ground in our space, and we start from ourselves, and then we go to the room we're in, and then the bigger world around us.
Gotcha. Yeah.
So it's just becoming reacquainted with being present in your body.
Okay. And then I'm assuming, depending on the gathering, like who's there, I'm sure there's time to process. So, obviously in a one-on-one, it's much easier to process than it is in a group, right? And maybe it's appropriate to process what people experience, or maybe it's not. But I think it's really, I think it's a really cool thing. If you haven't experienced it, I think it's something you really should. While we have Emmy here with us, we are lucky enough to, that's something you can experience. You can make appointments to work with her. And then we have our new moon ceremonies every month, and that changes depending on what day the new moon is on. So there's lots of opportunities to get to experience it, especially if you've never done it. Now, if you've done it and you love it, give us a call as well. So remember, you can change your thoughts, discover your potential, and transform your life by focusing on your overall well-being. So until next time, continue working on being the best you possible. Bye.